Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am your host, and I am in fabulous Las Vegas. Happy to be bringing you yet another episode of the world's longest running poker strategy podcast ever. And it is week 5 in the books now, wrapping up my 5th week in Sin City. And I'm happy to say that week 5 was a departure from the losing that we experienced in week 3 and 4. I won a $215 main event satellite on the same day that I also cashed in another online bracelet event. This one was the $500 online bracelet event where I finished 175th or something out of 2,000-ish or 2,500 entries. So I cashed for $1,350. Not a lot of money there, but definitely a step in the right direction after 2 consecutive weeks of virtual futility. And so it was fun to have a little bit of success online and kind of turn the ship around just in time for the main event, which is in progress as we are listening to this. And I will be playing day 1C, which is the 4th of July. No better way to celebrate the birth of the greatest nation in the world than to spend 12 hours playing poker with about 2,000 of my closest friends. Things have been going well lately, not just poker-wise, but kind of life-wise. I've been having a lot of fun. We did a great comedy show on July 1st at the Poker Org Legends Lounge, which is located inside the Horseshoe Casino. It was really fun. My dear friend Joe Stapleton put the whole thing together. He got acts like Caitlin Komeski and some other really funny people that I hadn't met before that I thought were great. I'm very sad that I can't remember their names right now. It was kind of a whirlwind. The place was packed. Everyone was laughing. It was so much fun. I saw old friends like Alex Fitzgerald and Nikki Limo and Joe Kim, Lee Jones, and so many others that were there just to hang out and feel the vibes and enjoy some comedy, maybe take a break from all the bad beat stories and the other variance that comes along with being a poker player. It was so much fun. And you can see a few pictures from that event on my Substack, which I've been putting out almost every single day, kind of a diary of how things are going here in Vegas. I would love for you guys to subscribe to that. It's absolutely free. There is a link in the description of this podcast where you can read about all the fun things that are going on here at summer camp. As I'm recording this on Thursday, I'm actually prepping to go do commentary for day 1B of the World Series of Poker main event on the Poker Stars YouTube channel, along with the aforementioned Joe Stapleton. So I hope that you guys will be able to tune into that as well. We've got continuing coverage of all the day ones of the main event, and I'll be on what we call the night shift, 7 p.m. local time, 10 p.m. on the East Coast, and you can check that out on the Poker Stars YouTube channel for free Thursday and Saturday, July 3rd and 5th. Now, I realize you won't actually hear this until July 4th, but I'm living my life in real time. It's not my fault that you're not catching it until a day later. You still have Saturday, so if you want to hang out and enjoy some main event day 1 action, Saturday, that's the place to be, the Poker Stars YouTube. There's a link in the description of this podcast. Just click that link and you can hear my voice and all my thoughts on the day 1D play. So first, I will be playing day 1C tomorrow, 4th of July, and I'm very excited. You guys know, anyone who knows me knows that the one thing I look forward to the most each and every single year of my life is the World Series main event. There's literally nothing like it in the universe, so I can't wait to join the fun. Last week's episode, Brent Lee, by the way, shout out to Brent Lee, who also came to support our comedy night at the Legends Lounge. You guys really seem to enjoy that episode. We got some great feedback. Brent has expressed an interest in being more active on the podcast, and I really like talking with him. I think he's obviously a very good poker player. He's got a great personality, and I think that you can look forward to more episodes featuring my friend at NC Tar Wheel on Twitter, Brent Lee himself. So we'll look forward to having him back on the podcast very soon. This particular WSOP has not been without its share of controversies, and I'm sure you guys have read about them and heard about them and watched videos about them. So I don't want to go too far into it, but I do want to point out just one inconsistency. Now, I'm referring to the final table agreement where it was heads up and it was pretty clear that the two players involved had decided to do a chop, mostly due to the fact that Club WPT Gold decided to get involved, almost like Russia interfering with another country's election or something, and offered people $1 million for winning a bracelet. And that's a tournament that WPT really has nothing to do with, but it was a good way to kind of get their brand out there and like everybody talking about them and stuff. Well, these two guys end up heads up, and they're thinking, why don't we make sure this extra $1 million gets paid out? And, you know, I don't really mind these types of promotions. I mean, poker is still basically the wild, wild west, and there's all kinds of weird stuff going on. Club WPT, for their part, has paid out. They're not trying to avoid losing the $1 million or anything. They're doing exactly what they should do. But I just want to point out that other websites, such as GG Poker, have offered similar types of promotions in the past. Like if you make a final table, there's this kind of bonus if you're a member of ggpoker.com or whatever. And I've seen all kinds of advertising for the last several years that if you join GG Poker and then you bubble a tournament, they have something called bubble protection, which is to a much lesser degree, kind of similar. It's like, this isn't our tournament, but we are going to kind of get involved in reimbursing players for their buy-ins if they do something we want them to do, which is sign up for our site, whether that's GG Poker or Club WPT or FatElephantMonkeyPoker.net. I don't care. These are great ways for other companies to kind of get involved in the mania that does surround the World Series of Poker and all of the publicity that this huge event or series of events generates. Now, GG was doing this before they actually bought the brand, so it might make more sense for them to do it now, kind of synergizing their relationship with WSOP. But, you know, they did this years ago. I think they offered $500,000 for anyone who won a bracelet if they signed up for a premium membership on GG Poker or something like that. I don't remember the exact details, but I have heard of these types of promotions before. So anyone who's saying this is wrong and they shouldn't do this type of thing, look, this has been going on and there is no law against it. It's similar to maybe a sports betting website that wants to do some kind of promotion around the Super Bowl. Maybe they're not allowed to use the phrase Super Bowl because that's trademarked, but they might say, let's say if you sign up for our sports betting platform and you make a bet on the big game, they always end up calling it the big game for legal reasons, but we all know what the big game is, right? And they'll say, if you happen to lose your bet on the big game, we'll guarantee that bet and pay you back. Or I've seen all kinds of promotions around that. It's a way for sites to try to gain visibility based on someone else's popularity, and it's not the first time it happened. So I just want to kind of put that in perspective. I understand the two players involved are banned from further competition in the WSOP, which is kind of disappointing for them, I'm sure, but it is pretty explicit in the rules that no types of chops are permitted. When you play a WSOP final table, you have to try to win the tournament. You're not allowed to make a deal. I'm sure other deals have happened, but this one was so obvious, and these guys have no one to blame but themselves for not being slicker about it. Anyway, enough about that. We have much more pleasant things to discuss. Yesterday, I played in an $1,100 one-day tournament at the Venetian, which, by the way, shout out to Venetian and their beautiful new poker room. A lot of great amenities, cup holders at each table, comfortable chairs, and a soda and coffee station that anyone can use, just self-service. Go get yourself a beverage during the break. Very experienced dealers I recognize from other casinos that I've been playing with for many years, so that was nice. They didn't just take a bunch of blackjack dealers off the floor and say, hey, get up in the poker room and figure out how to deal poker. So yeah, generally I would say the Venetian is doing well with their new poker room, and this tournament had a $250,000 guarantee, but it attracted 400 players for a prize pool of over $375,000. So pretty cool to be able to play in a one-day turbo with $73,000 for first place. And I will get to that hand in just a few minutes. But first, I have some unfinished business about a hand that I played in the Win $1,600 $2.5 million guaranteed tournament at my favorite place, the Win Poker Room. And I had an opponent by the name of Dean Ruhan, who was wild and loose. And I wanted to check and see if the line that I took in this hand, which was featured, I think 2 or maybe even 3 episodes ago here on the podcast, I want to check this line using my favorite solver, which is GTO Wizard. GTO Wizard is the easiest solver in the world to use. You can plug in your hand, exactly how many big blinds you had, what the tournament situation was, and all the other different factors, whether it's a PKO or a mystery bounty, really all types of formats, and you can find out whether a perfect robot who never makes any mistakes would have played the hand in the same way that you did. So it's a great way to review your play afterwards without having to pay a coach. You guys can get 24 hours unlimited access to all of GTO Wizard's features just by clicking the link in the description of this podcast. And then once you're ready to buy, you'll even save 10% off your first purchase. And that link is gtowizard.com/p/TPE. All right, so let's take a look at this hand again. This is the guy who had 6 bets shoved with pocket nines, and they had like 160 big blind pot with nines versus ace king. In this hand, though, the blinds are 6,000 and 12,000 with a 12,000 big blind ante, and we have 800,000 in our stack. So that means we have about 70 big blinds. Our M is about 27, 28, somewhere around that range. The average at this point was only 440,000. So we're almost at double the average. So just doing great by any measure at this point in the tournament. We were already in the money with just 210 players remaining in this tournament, which I believe had 3 or maybe even 4 starting days. And up top, there is $555,000 US for first place. Now, in this hand, my loose and very aggressive opponent opens from the hijack, min raise to 24K off of a stack of 1.4 million, which is more than 3 times the average stack. He's one of the chip leaders. And I'm in the cutoff next to act, and I've got the ace of spades, 10 of hearts, and I 3-bet him to 75K. The action folds back to my opponent who called. So let's see what the solver thinks about my decision to 3-bet with ace 10 facing a raise from the hijack. And it turns out the solver is like obsessed with me. I mean, raising the exact sizing I did about 65% of the time and just flat calling the other 35%. So certainly I have made the decision that the solver would like us to be making most often. So I'm happy about that. And then when he calls, we are heads up on the flop with the pot at 180,000. The flop comes jack of spades, 7 of clubs, 5 of clubs. Remember, I just have the ace of spades, 10 of hearts. So no clubs in my hand, no pair, and no draw at this point. And villain checks. I decided to bet kind of big here, half the pot, and Ruan made the call. So let's see what Solver thinks of my play. And the wizard is kind of embarrassing me now, sort of, making me blush, a little into me. The solver makes this play 47% of the time, bets only a quarter pot about 45% of the time, and does some weird stuff the rest. But yeah, this again is the top play by the wizard. So I'm 2 for 2 in this hand, pre-flop and on the flop. I was very happy, especially to see that the half pot sizing is a little bit preferred to the quarter pot sizing, because I felt like the board is kind of wet and we want to go a little bit bigger in these spots, which I've been learning from all of the study that I've been doing all year long on GTO Wizard. So I was happy to see that, a little embarrassed, but happy nonetheless. And then the turn comes the ace of clubs, and my opponent checked, and now I have top pair, and there are 3 flush cards out there, and I decided to check behind, kind of wanting to control the pot, maybe have a better shot at getting value on the river, assuming it's not a club, and things like that. So I check behind, but let's see what the solver wants to do. And guys, this is getting a bit insane. Solver's like obsessed with me. You fangirl much, GTO Wizard? Because what I'm looking at is the preferred play in this spot is a check back, just like I did. 55% of the time we're supposed to check it back, and the rest of the time we either bet a quarter pot or even an eighth of the pot on this flush card. We never want to bet big in this situation, but mostly the solver wants us to check 55% of the time. So pat myself on the back yet again for my play on 4th Street. And now the river comes the deuce of clubs, putting 4 to a flush on the board, and I did not have any clubs in my hand. Once again, Ruan checks, and I decided to check and just hope that a pair of aces could take it down. And guess what, guys? The solver hardly ever bets on this river. We're checking back 94% of the time. So that means that in each and every decision point of this hand, I made the play that the solver will make most often. I believe this is the first time in the history of the Tournament Poker Edge podcast that I have gotten a perfect GTO Wizard score of 100 out of a possible 100 on any hand, and I am going to relish this moment, feel like it's a result of all the studying that I did preparing for this summer, and I'm just going to give myself a lot of credit and kudos and pats on the back, and I might even kiss myself in the mirror for playing this hand so perfectly. By the way, I lost the pot because villain had pocket eights with the 8 of clubs. So guys, definitely check out GTO Wizard. It's a huge tool to help you improve your poker game, just like it has helped me improve mine. All right, let's move on and let's do a brand new hand. This is from the tournament that I just played yesterday over at the Venetian, the aforementioned $1,100 single day event with a $250K guarantee that was actually closer to $400K, if we're being honest. Because this is a one-day tournament, it's a bit of a turbo structure, and I had played very fast and loose early on, running my 40,000 starting stack up to 80,000 within the first 2 or 3 hours or so. And I did this mostly by 3-betting light against a player that I felt was opening way too often. I observed early that this player was opening maybe 60 or 70% of his opening opportunities, which is way too many. Even if you're only doing this on the button, it's a little too high. But this guy was really doing it from second position, third position, wherever he happened to be. If nobody had entered the pot, he's like, well, I'll try to take this one down. Basically, trying to play that, let's just get involved in a lot of pots. I think I'm the best player at the table, if not the world. and I'm going to try to push everybody around and get involved in lots of dangerous situations with subpar holdings. And I wanted to exploit this tendency. So I was 3-betting very light against this guy. I did it with any suited ace, any 2 Broadway cards. I did it with Jack 9 suited once. And after a while, he started to, I think, suspect that I was up to something, but he just kept folding anyway. So I accumulated a lot of chips just by 3-betting this guy very light and then taking it down, which I did so many times. It makes me want to go play at Venetian every single day. I'm not saying every tournament there is going to be like this, but this one was fairly easy. Once I noticed an opponent's mistake, I was able to exploit that mistake over and over and over, and no one ever seemed to make any kind of adjustment to me. Now, if you feel like you're in a position where the guy on your left 3-bets every time you enter the pot, you need to start doing something about it. I recommend 4-betting with any ace or any king. If you're really getting exploited to this extent, you need to start fighting fire with fire, and you can't wait until you have a premium. The other strategy that you could try is maybe tighten up your opening range, because we all hate to call 3-bets from out of position. It puts you in an inflated pot at a disadvantage. That's no fun, right? But maybe once you realize that the guy on your left is a bit of a loose, aggressive 3-better, you should make an adjustment to your strategy. This opponent didn't do that, and like I said, I doubled up within the first couple of hours. Then, unfortunately, I got moved to a new table. They broke our whole table and we all got new seats. I never saw that guy again. But boy, that first table was a lot of fun. Anyway, I moved to a new table and I haven't been here that long, but I've already noticed that the player across from me, I'm in the 4 seat and this guy's in the 1 seat. He is getting involved in way too many pots as well. He's also apparently South American, I'm guessing Brazilian. He's also decked out from head to toe in all sorts of designer clothes with labels on it. He had like a Balenciaga t-shirt. He had a Giorgio Armani jacket on top of that. He just looked like a guy that wanted everyone to know he's got the bling, all right? This guy's got some money. He doesn't care about inflation in Vegas. I'll bet he drinks the giant Fiji from out of his mini bar in his suite at the Palazzo. That's the kind of guy we're talking about here. And so I got involved in a pot with him. The action folded to him on the button. The blinds were 1,500 and 3,000. We had about 80,000 in our stack, so just about 27 big blinds, an M of about 11. And the action folds to this player I just described on the button, and he makes it 7,000 off of a stack of 120K. So our 80K will be the effective stack in this situation. By the way, the average at this point is about 110, as 2/3 of the players have already busted out of the tournament. There's about 130 of us left, and 50 of us will get paid first prize over $72,000 for a 1-day 1K. Not bad at all. I'm in the big blind with the ace of spades, 9 of spades, and I had a decision to make facing this button open from this loose player. Do I want to 3-bet? I think this hand can be in our 3-betting range at this stack depth generally, but I was just concerned about, I really don't want to shove because I think I have slightly too many chips to just do a huge shove, and I also didn't want to 3-bet and then face a 4-bet shove and have to fold a hand as strong as ace-9 suited, and I felt like this opponent might be the type that would have it in him to do that. But even if he just flats my 3-bet, what am I supposed to do if I miss the flop? These are the spots where I think when you're out of position against a loose, aggressive opponent, it might be easier just to take the conservative route, keep the pot a little bit smaller and more navigatable, if that's a word, post-flop. So that's why I decided to just call. And now with 18,500 in the middle, the flop comes 7 of clubs, 4 of diamonds, deuce of diamonds. So 7-4 deuce with 2 diamonds, hero holding the ace of spades, 9 of spades. So I have completely whiffed this flop unless you want to count 2 overcards. So I checked, and my opponent checked behind. So when he does this, I think he's probably got some type of showdown value. I put him on maybe like a hand like pocket fives or something like that, maybe with a diamond, possibly an ace high type of hand that doesn't feel compelled to bet because it's probably good but can't really get value from a worse hand, stuff like that. So that's kind of the range that I put him on. He's not trying to get my 27 big blinds into the middle if he's not going to bet this flop. So I didn't think he had a very big hand. So now once we both check, there's still 18-5 in the middle, and the turn comes the jack of diamonds, which completes the flush. Now I had to ask myself, what would my opponent have done with a flush draw on the flop? Like suppose he had something like king, queen of diamonds, and the flop comes 7 high with 2 diamonds. I think this particular opponent is always going to bet any flush draw on the flop. So I didn't see him as ever having a flush here. And so because of that, I felt like I should have a range advantage and a nuts advantage at this point in the hand because he doesn't have a set. He certainly would have bet a set on the flop, trying to get all in with me by the river. He doesn't have a flush because he would have semi-bluffed it on the flop. But I can have a set and I can have a flush and I can have 2 pair. I can have a lot of very strong hands. So I felt like the balance of power had shifted on this turn card. And because of that, I decided to bluff it. Even though I had probably very little equity in the hand. Well, I guess I have decent equity against a pocket fives with no diamond. But other than that, I really don't have much equity unless I'm up against that type of hand. I could also be ahead, by the way, if opponent has something like king, queen, or king 10. So anyway, I did bet. I went 1/3 of the pot approximately. I bet 5,500 into the 18,500 pot. And Villain looked at me for a few seconds and then made the call. And I really sensed weakness on his part. So I was happy to develop a plan to fire again on a blank river. So I'm looking for a blank on the river, not a king, not a diamond, nothing good. I want to see some awful card hit the river, and the river actually came the 5 of spades. So now with 29,500 in the middle, I'm looking at a board of 7 of clubs, 4 of diamonds, deuce of diamonds, jack of diamonds, 5 of spades. 7, 4, deuce, jack, 5, and 3 diamonds are out there. So now a couple of straights came in. Ace tray and 6 tray have come in. Very unlikely hands. I don't believe that even this opponent would have opened the 6 tray, even on the button. That's just a junk hand that most of us don't play under too many circumstances. And my having the ace of spades makes ace tray less likely. I wasn't very worried about the straight, and I wanted to continue representing that flush. So into the pot of 29,500, I went chunky. I bet 2/3 of the pot, 19,000 with ace high, and Villain called very quickly. And I was like, wow, was my read off? Does this guy have a flush? Maybe he paired his jack on the turn. I'm not really sure what's going on. I turn over my ace high, and then he shows down the king of spades, deuce of spades for just bottom pair. So here's a case where my read was right, my strategy was solid, my theory was correct, my vibe check was working, but I might have made a crucial mistake. Do not try to bluff a guy who can afford a Giorgio Armani jacket. I ended up finishing 106th out of 400 players in this tournament, out of the money. But that's nothing compared with the friends we made along the way. And that'll do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, why don't you give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever else you might be listening. Don't forget to subscribe to my Substack. Click the link in the description. And for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, I'm Clayton Fletcher from fabulous Las Vegas. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas plays. Hold 'em, let 'em hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Luck and intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart.